Welcome to Chamber Chat. I'm John Terr, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber, and I welcome you to another edition of our conversation with business leaders in our community and community leaders in general to talk about issues that are important to our business economy and generally of interest to business leaders like yourself. And today I'm glad to welcome to the Chamber Chat Cliff Grassmick, who's been the photographer at the Daily Camera for 35 years. And we're going to have the opportunity to talk with Cliff about his experience working in journalism in our community and some of the things that have changed over time in the journalism industry, as well as through the lens of his camera, the perspective on our community. But before I talk to Cliff, a couple of announcements. First, we have a business after hours coming up. That's on February 23rd at 5 p.m. and it's at that wonderful indoor location, Rayback Collective. Love getting together there with the food trucks, the adult beverages, the regular beverages, but it'll be a fun time to just get together, hang out, connect with business leaders, and build your business-to-business relationship. So that's on February 23rd, business after hours at 5 p.m. at the Rayback Collective. And then we have another one of our member orientations. And this is a great opportunity if you're new to the Chamber organization or if you're a longtime member, but just forgetting about all the things that the Boulder Chamber can do for your business. And that member orientation is on February 24 at 9:30 a.m. at the Boulder Chamber. So we'll look forward to seeing you there. Again, a great opportunity to learn about all the great things we're doing for you at the Boulder Chamber, but also to connect with some of your fellow Chamber members. And then finally, the gala event, our annual meeting, it's called the Celebration of Leadership. And it's an opportunity for us to get together to celebrate and honor the great business and community leaders that help to make our economy and an economic environment strong and also support other community values. And that's going to be on March 17th. And I can tell you we're going to be honoring some wonderful individuals. You may know them yourself. First of all, the Virginia Patterson Business Person of the Year is Brian McCudden, who is the CEO at Corden Pharma, the pharmaceutical company that is producing Moderna. Very important vaccine. Our Rising Star Award is going to Tatiana Hernandez with the Community Foundation serving Boulder County. She's doing amazing work responding to crisis after crisis in our community, but helping to lift all of us and support recovery efforts. Then our Startup Business of the Year is Shinesty. Shinesty is the company, you may know it if you watch a football game, you see somebody dressed in an all Green Bay Packard logo outfit and other crazy clothing that they've become associated with. And the leader is Chris White, who is going to be recognized again for the Startup of the Year. The Lifetime Achievement Award winner is somebody very special to our community. It's Catherine Allegra. She's with IHS Market, and that is a company that provides information that helps folks understand the comings and goings of the stock market, make their selections. You probably don't even know that they're there in their background oftentimes with their information on many of the trading sites. She's built the business from scratch and then sold it, and then now it's moving on, and this continues to build and grow that company in our community, and it has made us a leader in that area of technology and information. So just Catherine Allegra, looking forward to honoring her and her amazing career in our community. And then finally, the Impact Award. This is going to the City of Boulder and the University of Colorado for the coming together that they did over the very controversial but important CU South annexation. So we want to pay tribute to that kind of collaborative partnership work, strong negotiations, but they should be celebrated for coming together in the end in support of flood needs and housing needs in our flood control needs and housing in our community. So look forward to that Impact Award, all at the Celebration of Leadership. We look forward to seeing you there. And that's going to be, again, on March 17. Okay, enough from the Boulder Chamber's announcement section. Now we get to have our conversation with Cliff. Welcome to the Boulder Chamber Chat.
It's good to be here.
It's so wonderful. So Cliff and I have known each other from in front of the camera, behind the camera, for many of his 35 years. And he often catches me doing goofy expressions and embarrassing me. But he is somebody who has the opportunity through the lens to experience and understand the evolution of our community, our economy. So I'm just going to start, Cliff, by asking you, so can you tell us a little bit about your career with the Daily Camera, but with the photographic journalism in general?
Yes, well, I went to school with journalism at CU, and also I got a degree in psychology. And I tried very hard through internships and other ways, freelancing, to get a job at the camera because it was a very photo-oriented paper. And back in the mid-'80s, it was probably the peak of the paper. Sure. We had a lot of money. We had 6 photographers, if you can imagine that. Yeah. And we covered all kinds of things, not just in Boulder County, but all over the state, and sometimes in other places. Yeah. And so, there were many sections. Those of you that maybe lived back then, the paper was huge. We were like very similar to like the Denver Post or the Rocky Mountain News at the time. Wow. So I started out primarily kind of, as the newbie on the staff, and I did a lot of high school sports. Mm-hmm. My weekends were booked with high school sports and that sort of thing. And back in those days, things were much more complicated because we were shooting film, mm-hmm. and we had to process it and sometimes print it or scan it on deadline. Yeah. So that was a whole new, that was a very different world, and you had to think differently about your images. Now you take some pictures, you look at it, and you see that it's the right exposure, and maybe that was a good moment, but we got to keep going. Mm-hmm. And so in about 1987 is when I started full-time at the Daily Camera, and it's been a wonderful ride because Boulder is a really interesting and unique city, and lots of things happen here. Mm-hmm. And I've enjoyed a lot of the events that I've photographed over the years. I think I photographed all but 3 Boulders, because I did a lot of this before. I did things to build a portfolio, to get a job. Yeah. And so I was doing things that didn't get published anywhere, but I just did it because I wanted to get a job, primarily at the Daily Camera. Yep. And so the Boulder was always fun. Back in those days, we had the Thurs Classic, mm-hmm. the bike races, and that was just a great thing. They even had kind of a movie called American Flyer, mm-hmm. with Kevin Costner. And back then he wasn't as famous, but I was photographing that scene and that, him filming at Mogul Bismarck. Wow. And, I didn't know who he was, so he might have stepped on my foot and I didn't even know it. And, events like that, to Kinetics Conveyance, yeah. those races. Mm-hmm. The 80s and 90s were just kind of a really fun time, and, everyone could let their hair down and feel safe and, mm-hmm. and do all kinds of incredible things. Yeah. So that's kind of where we started. Journalism, of course, changed quite a bit in the sense of who your ownership is. Yeah. There was owners that kind of were more interested in a profit. Newspapers, I know people think, nobody reads newspapers anymore, but they really do. Yeah. And they read them online, and the thing is, it's getting really expensive to actually have a physical paper newspaper. Yeah. And so that's been difficult, but like I said, living in Boulder and doing all those things, it was really quite an experience. And so, but as I mentioned, things changed, and we had less and less photographers as years went on. Mm-hmm. We didn't go and photograph the Super Bowl, because I was sent to 5 different Super Bowls with the Broncos. That would never happen now. Some of those were the most stressful times, mm-hmm. in my career, and I almost thought about quitting afterwards. Wow. So it wasn't that much fun. I guess the most fun I had was the one in San Diego when the Broncos beat Green Bay in 98 or 99, when the year changed. But a lot of those things, there's a lot of pressure, and you got to perform, and kind of you got to get it right every time when you're going on an assignment. So you feel the pressure of getting definitely. The shot. Yes, all the time. Right before I came over here today, I had to photograph something at Community Cycles, and it was a guy taking a tire off a rim. Mm-hmm. Not very complicated or glorious or glamorous, yeah. But I worked it until I got the right photo. And I only knew I got the right photos when you pointed it out to me.
I was a part-time photo editor today.
Yeah, you did some photo editing for me. So, I think it's useful not to put so much pressure on yourself that it gets in the way of getting a photo, but you've got to always have your mind working in the sense of seeing the best moment and using the light and whatever's happening in it and making sure it's very clear so people don't have to look at the photo and guess really what's going on. It should just jump out right away.
Should tell the story. Well, let me ask you, you touched on it a little bit, but maybe dig a little deeper. So in your time with the Daily Camera, but just observing journalism in general in our community, how has it changed, and then how has that impacted you in your role?
Well, I think the media in general's become, back when I first started in those days of the 80s and 90s, I think people welcomed having a photographer in an event, and there was a positive spin on the press.
Mm-hmm.
And now, because of a lot of things, I don't feel welcomed in a lot of events that are very, very innocent things, and people don't want to be photographed, and they get kind of angry about it and that sort of thing. You go to an event at the Wow Museum, and a mother runs over there and says, "No, I don't want my kid in the paper," or "No, you can't have their name." And so I kind of understand it, but at the same time, they can't really know what I'm thinking. I'm just trying to get the best image.
Sure.
But then if the other part of it is a lot of people are thrilled to have their kids in the paper, and sometimes I find a way to get those special moments to the people that I photographed.
Sure.
And I think the biggest compliment for me is if the people have a newspaper clipping stuck to the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've accomplished something.
That's so good.
when that happens. And the other thing is, it's changed, but one thing that hasn't changed is people recognize me and come up to me and say, "You remember when you photographed my son at North Boulder Park, with a kite?" And I really don't, because over 35 years, of course, you find hundreds of photos.
Yeah.
But they remember you because they see the photo, they see your name under it, and so I try to go along. But I'm sure it happened the way it did, where they said it did.
Yeah.
Nowadays, we have less of a news hole or space to print stories and papers or pictures, and so things are different. And for a while there, one thing that changed dramatically is when we went to digital, and when we created a website in the late '90s, and so things would go that way. Like in the old days, you might shoot a photo story or photo gallery type of thing, and it would all be in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you can go to a football game and photograph the CU Buffs and have a photo gallery, and digitally on the website, Buff Zone or something like that, and you can put in 40, 50 pictures, and people can look at all of them. And and that way it's been great, for photography. Right now we have only 2 photographers working for the Daily Camera, the Times Call, Broomfield Enterprise, the Hometown Weekly out east here. And so that's been very different. So the workload in a way has gone up, but there are less assignments to shoot. There's less things we cover because we just don't have the people to do it.
Because you don't have as many stories being produced locally, so then you don't need to have a photo following it. I got you. Interesting. Well then, and it obviously the technology has changed dramatically, so that changes the work. It sounded like you had to do the photo processing as well. I mean, is that?
Well, back in the old days, we would process the photos. We had machines that we would put the film in, and it would make the negatives, or process the negatives. And in some cases, we would actually make a print. In other cases, we would scan it in, and then get a digital image from scanning in a photo. And so and now it's just I get I might take like 150 shots of the guy at the bike shop, and I'll go through and I might pick 4 or 5 that I like, and I'll send them all in. So not only we have one photo for the paper tomorrow, but we have file photos. Another thing I failed to mention is maybe 15 years ago we started doing a lot of videos. I was a little resistant to that because I thought it would take away from my still photography. And in a way it did, but then I got to the point where I could shoot stills and sometimes even shoot video at the same time. And I had a lot of fun with the videos. And we'd make 2 or 3 minute videos of events or things like that. And I really liked that. Or I'd go out and do a story, we'd do a video. But we found that nobody really watched them.
Wow.
And it was a huge resource. It took a lot of time. We had to buy a lot of extra equipment. And another thing, we used to do a garage band thing called Second Story Garage that we had to stop doing too, because of budget concerns and not having the people and a variety of things, even a place to do it. So that we kind of tried peaking with the digital part of it, and it kind of had to die off, kind of a natural death. But I do miss the videos. But at the same time, it's a lot easier just to work and think about still pictures.
So interesting, because I think of video now as such an important part of communication.
Mm-hmm.
We rely on a lot of video. We're making a video.
Right.
So just interesting that from the daily camera's perspective, it just wasn't getting the kind of click-throughs. Well, let me hit on another thing that I think just really relevant to the business community and just what you see through your lens and the evolution of our community. How has the business community changed? How has our community at large changed over the years from, again, behind the lens?
Well, back in the older days, our daily camera building was right on the Pearl Street Mall, essentially. It was right there at the corner. Yeah. And it was great to be able to walk over there and go to all the places that you learned to love. And I remember in the 80s, in the 70s too, when I was a student, there were certain places like restaurants like the Aristocrat. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like the best. The $4 giant Nick's omelet.
Yeah, that's
So you got that. You had the New York Deli. All these really kind of, I guess, homespun or mom and pop type shops to a degree. Yeah. You had a lot of that, and it was fun. You had Nepal import shop. I mean, just a lot of things, and it was fun going down to the mall for me. Yeah. To see all that stuff. Yeah. And there was live music sometimes at the Blue Note. There was live music on the Hill and at the Boulder Theater where I would get photo passes. Things were a lot easier and streamlined. Like I would go photograph whoever, even at Chautauqua. I did some photography for them. So there were lots of outlets to be creative and to enjoy events, and not so much now. And then when I go down to the mall now, since we're way east of there, our offices, and I'm not going to tell you why, because it's kind of it's not very appealing. But first of all, I can't find a place to park. Yeah. And and I got to always think about parking and and making sure the meters are. And I go down there and it seems like the shops are less the home, mom and pop and more the corporate chains or the big, like you're walking down a street in Aspen or Telluride or something. Gotcha. Yeah. And so that's changed. And so when I go down there, there's a lot of places that, I might go to what my kids call the Froggy store, Into the Wind. Yeah, yeah. You can buy the toys. They love that store, and it's been there a while. And so we do that, but then I don't go down to the mall now unless I absolutely have to. Yeah. Sometimes I'll look for a feature picture. Yeah. A standalone picture where we don't have any stories, and I have to go out looking for things, interesting things. Yeah. And so in that way, the businesses have changed. When I was starting out, we had the Crossroads Mall down on 28th Street. Yeah. And it was just like your really typical 80s mall, and it was all indoors, and I thought it was fine. Yeah. I grew up in rural Colorado, so all this was magical to me. It was totally new. Yeah. So that's changed too, and I kind of miss those things, the things that gave the town a lot of character. Yeah. Now it's got a different feel to it. Sure does. It's more like you have to have money and live here. I don't know if nobody I work with can live in Boulder. Yeah. So there's that too. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I know that Chip downtown is always concentrating on the local and bringing back the local. And I know that that's a focus of his to make it more accessible to all the community. So you're hitting on that note. What about overall sort of the technology business and sort of your engagement with that kind of environment? Well, doing the videos and doing the digital stuff, the technology stuff was fun. I mean, I can take photos now and put them on my phone and send them. I was thinking like sort of the transition, the businesses that you photograph. Okay. I mean, just are they, has there been an evolution in that kind of character of our community? Yeah, and most of it, at my age, I don't understand. Someone asked me if I had a Venmo? I go, no, what's that? Because they wanted to send me some money or something, and I don't have any of that stuff. So there's all these easy ways to buy things and to do it online. Or that one thing I've noticed is that people are more inclined now to stay home and buy things and not walk down the mall and look for stuff unless they're like it's a fun experience for them. So that's been a big thing. And the businesses I photograph, you know, they can be fun. I mean, but at the same time, so much of it's done on the computer that those make boring pictures, by the way, complete computers.
Interesting.
But in that sense, I'm just trying to think of some businesses that I go down to and see. You know, we do a lot of restaurant reviews, or we do things at restaurants, and that, you know, we go back and get them cooking. So there's still some things that are the way they've been for forever.
Yeah.
But the technology has changed about what we cover and how we cover it.
Let me ask you another question. What if you were advising a business on how to work with you to make sure that when they have a story to tell, they get a good photograph in the newspaper? What might be a secret trick that you would suggest?
Well, you know, often I'll try to photograph something, and the business says, "Oh, I don't want any photos taken." And sometimes I even say to them, you know, this is like a free advertisement.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the people that are outgoing and nice and invite me in and say, well, this is what's happening. We know we don't like to set up photos. Might create things that aren't real.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, just can I come in and spend some time, get your workers working, get the customers there. I'll check in with them, make sure they're okay to be photographed. So the more open and accessible they are, the better the photos are going to be, in the sense that I'll see more things, and it sets up the attitude with me. It's like in the morning when if something bad happens, it kind of lingers with you all day.
Yeah.
If someone's really nice, I want to do a good job, and I'm more motivated to do a good job. And so the photos are going to probably be nicer, and they're going to portray their business in a more positive way. So I think, you know, if you don't want people, just nicely say, you know, I don't think it's going to work out for us this time, but you know, don't ride the fence, or don't do this, or you know, sometimes they'll call me later, I don't really want those photos in the paper. And then a lot of people, as I mentioned, don't want to give me their names, and that's kind of a hard thing for us, because we like to identify people.
Yeah.
And when I get back there, well, I got this really nice shot, but I couldn't get her name. And the editors get mad at me and start saying, well, we can't run it then, or whatever. It depends on the editor. And so if we can work together, they don't have to do anything for me.
Sure.
All they have to do is be themselves and just let their business speak for itself, and we're gonna have success. I think
That's a great counsel. So last question, funny story from your experience as 35 years at the Daily Camera. What are some memorable ones?
Well, I'll start out with a more serious one, but you can imagine going to concerts and doing things. But remember the Sugarloaf fire, or the old stage, you know, it was like 89, I think.
Yeah.
I was out driving up Boulder Canyon, and it was starting in Boulder Canyon. And, you know, it was a Saturday, and then my boss would have been really mad, but I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and like tennis shoes.
Wow. Yeah.
And I came around this corner, and I saw the huge flames going up the mountains.
Wow.
And so, but I went around on Old States Road, and I got out of my car, and I saw the flames kind of burning. But then this big wave of flames started coming down. Oof. And I thought, you know, this is going to catch me. So I ran a little bit behind me, and I jumped in a ditch and laid down face down in the ditch, and the fire just burned, just flew. I mean, it moves so fast. It's just incredible. And it kind of burned the back of my hair, and I don't need any. I don't need any more hair loss, you know. So that wasn't good. But it got so hot. But I was fortunate, because you can get killed in something like that.
Oh my God, no, that's how it happens.
There have been issues. Another story is when these are the serious ones, and then I'll move on. There was some hikers up at Lost Lake above Nederland, and they sent some people up to rescue them. And so I went up there and I walked, and it was a Sunday, and I'm going, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. But they said, you need to go up there and get something. So I started hiking up the trail to it, and it got late and it got cold, and I was post-holing. You know, the snow was coming up to my waist, but I said, well, I go back, it's going to be worse. So I got to go forward where the workers are. So I finally got there, and I got some photos that they were okay. You know, one person unfortunately died, and then the rescue workers, the EMT said, you know, you need to come with us. So myself and the other survivor of this winter camping trip got in a helicopter, and they got us out of there, because I had hypothermia, and I was, you know.
Oh my God!
I was not smart enough to realize that, you know, this was not a good idea.
Yeah, there's something parallel here, like the fire.
Yeah, when you get behind a camera, you kind of either get dumber or you get braver, or both.
Yeah.
You're just thinking about the photo.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the other day, I'm out. We had to look for wild art quite a bit, just pictures of people doing things.
Yeah.
Some of you out in the community have probably been approached by me, and you got to really have people trust you. But there was this woman trying to clean her car off the snow and the ice after she got off of work, and I thought, oh, this might be an interesting photo. First of all, she was doing it with a CD case, you know. I'm going, oh, and I don't know if this is tampering with the situation, but I gave her my ice scraper. I said, oh, I got an idea. And she's an old, so, you know, her car seat was pushed right up to the steering wheel because she's old and little.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to get inside the car. And I'm surprised she even trusted me to do that. Because the car's running and I could have stolen it.
Yeah.
And I get in there and I get stuck because I want to shoot through the windshield and get her scraper and get the ice framing her. And I get stuck and I'm pushing on the horn.
Oh,
so the horn's going off and everyone's looking around like I'm stealing the car.
Yeah.
And finally, people start coming over, and the lady says, "It's okay. He's a photographer. It's okay." And I'm going, I never got that picture. I got something that day, but it was just like, oh my God, what a mess.
That is so classic. I can't claim that I haven't used a CD box to
really. I
scrape
thought that was an excellent idea because I use other things, but credit card.
Yeah, totally. Like anything to get it off. All right, I have to say this: we have limited chamber chat airspace. But I could spend all day and the next day talking with you about the stories that I'm sure you've experienced.
Lots of them.
And just the perspective that you bring to our community. So I'll just end it there, but I'll just thank you, Cliff. I just always appreciate your being there to cover the stories, not just of our community, but specifically the businesses that we get to represent. And you're just a wonderful person and you do great work. So thank you so much for the work you do in our community. 35 years.
Well, thank you for having me on today.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. And so I'll just end the Chamber Chat there by saying thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Chamber Chat. Remember, March 17th, Celebration of Leadership. What a wonderful event. It will be honoring great business and community leaders who are doing great things to lift our economy, support our community. So March 17th, expect y'all be there. And we'll see you next time on Chamber Chat.